Have you ever wondered why some Taurus people seem unbreakable, steady, reliable, always holding everything together, while others, just as calm on the surface, slowly lose their sense of aliveness? Why does one Taurus push through exhaustion without complaint, while another stays in place for years, knowing something is wrong but unable to move? And why, if Taurus is supposed to be the sign of comfort and stability, do so many Taurians quietly feel stuck, drained, or emotionally numb? The truth is unsettling. Not all Taurus energy works the same way, and not all Taurus suffering looks like suffering. If astrology has ever helped you understand why you stay, not just what you feel, pause here and subscribe. This channel isn't about making your zodiac sign sound pleasant. It's about revealing the psychological weight each sign carries when no one is watching. Because Taurus isn't just the sign of stability, it's the sign of attachment. And depending on whether a Taurus is born in April or May, that attachment takes on two very different forms, both powerful, both dangerous in their own way. Taurus energy exists to build something solid, a life, a routine, a relationship, a sense of safety that doesn't disappear overnight. But what rarely gets talked about is what happens when that instinct goes too far. When staying becomes survival, or when staying becomes paralysis. April-born Taurians carry early Taurus energy. There is still a trace of Aries fire behind them, a quiet drive, a survival instinct that doesn't announce itself but never shuts off. For April Taurus, stability is not about comfort. It's about endurance. They approach life with a mindset that says, hold it together no matter what. They believe consistency is strength and responsibility is non-negotiable. When things get heavy, their first instinct is not to question the situation, is to carry more. Pressure doesn't scare them, instability does. So they build routines, they become reliable. They show up even when they're exhausted. And from the outside, they look strong, grounded, capable, dependable. But inside, something quieter is happening. April Taurus often confuses persistence with worth. The longer they stay, the more meaningful the sacrifice feels. Leaving doesn't just feel risky, it feels like failure, like erasing proof of everything they've endured. In work, this makes them invaluable. They don't quit easily. They push through burnout. They become the backbone of systems that would collapse without them. But they rarely ask whether those systems are nourishing them in return. In relationships, they love through responsibility. They show care by being present, consistent, loyal. But they can forget to ask themselves a dangerous question. Am I staying because this matters, or because I don't know who I'd be if I left? Under stress, April Taurus doesn't slow down, they harden, they take on more weight, believing that if they stop, everything will fall apart. Their exhaustion shows up physically, tension, fatigue, a body that keeps going long after the spirit is tired. Here's the uncomfortable truth about April Taurus. They don't stay because they're afraid of change. They stay because they believe their strength is proven by how much they can endure. May-born Taurians carry a different energy. Their Taurus is softer, more inward, more emotionally anchored. They are deeply attached, not just to routines, but to feelings, memories, and the sense of safety that familiarity provides. For May Taurus, stability is not about survival, it's about protection. They are more sensitive than people realize. They feel deeply, but quietly. Change doesn't energize them, it overwhelms them. So when life becomes uncertain, they don't push forward. They pause. They delay decisions. They stay where things are known, even if those things no longer bring joy. From the outside, May Taurus looks calm, unbothered, grounded, but internally, there is often a slow dulling of desire, a quiet resignation, a sense that life is happening but not fully to them. In work, they may remain in roles that feel safe but uninspiring, not because they lack ambition, but because the risk of losing stability feels heavier than the discomfort of staying bored. In relationships, they form deep emotional bonds. They love through attachment, through shared history, through familiarity. Ending something doesn't just feel painful, it feels like losing a piece of themselves. Under stress, May Taurus doesn't confront. They retreat. They distract themselves. They tell themselves it's fine, that nothing is really wrong. Over time, this turns into emotional numbness rather than peace. Here's the difficult truth about May Taurus. They don't stay because they believe in endurance. They stay because letting go feels like emotional free fall. This is where the contrast between April and May Taurus becomes painfully clear. April Taurus holds on by tightening their grip. May Taurus holds on by refusing to move. One exhausts the body, the other dulls the soul. Both are driven by the same fear: starting over. Because Taurus doesn't fear effort. Taurus fears losing what they've already built. And the longer they stay, the harder it becomes to tell whether they're being loyal to their values or imprisoned by them. At some point, a quiet realization begins to surface in every Taurus, regardless of birth month. I am safe, but I am not alive. That moment is terrifying because Taurus identity is built around stability. And questioning stability feels like questioning the self. April Taurus begins to wonder why they're always tired, even when nothing is wrong. May Taurus begins to wonder why life feels flat, even when everything is fine. This is the breaking point. Not dramatic, not explosive, just a growing sense that something essential has been missing for a long time. The evolution of Taurus doesn't come from pushing harder or staying longer. It comes from choosing what is worth staying for. April Taurus heals when they stop measuring their value by endurance alone and allow themselves to leave situations that no longer align with who they are becoming. May Taurus heals when they accept that emotional safety should not require emotional stagnation and that growth does not always mean loss. Stability is not a prison when it's chosen consciously, but it becomes one when it's maintained out of fear. Taurus strength was never meant to trap them. It was meant to support a life that continues to grow. And the most evolved Taurus, whether born in April or May, understands this. Loyalty is powerful. Consistency is powerful. But so is knowing when a foundation needs to be rebuilt. If you're a Taurus, comment below. Were you born in April or May, and did you recognize yourself in endurance or in stillness? And if you want to continue exploring the zodiac not as stereotypes, but as psychological maps of survival and healing, subscribe. This series isn't about comfort. It's about truth, the kind that finally lets you move.